All right, what you got?
So I'm just gonna throw this one at you.
All right.
And I already know the answer to this question. So maybe I'm gonna ask you this question and I'm gonna answer it for you. Then you can tell me if I'm crazy. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Is your glass half full or half empty? What up, everybody? We're back for another half empty, half full chit chat session. What's up, Trevor?
What's good, bud?
Oh, not much. I missed you, man. I've been gone for almost 8 days.
Yeah, it seemed like forever.
Yeah.
How was your trip, dude?
It was long. A lot of driving, a lot of working.
Yeah, were you warm at least? I got to play in the snow, dude.
Yeah, not too bad. California was a little rainy, a little chilly, but definitely not as cold and snowy here. And St. George, I went to St. George to work after that, and it was pretty good, man, like mid to high 50s and fairly sunny. So I can't complain considering you guys were all shoveling and plowing snow.
Right. Were you guys working, or did you get to play it all, or what?
California was a little bit of work, mainly play, and St. George was all work. You know how that goes.
Right.
So how you been, though? Good?
Good, yeah. I kind of holed up in my room when the snow started falling and got to play some video games, so that was nice.
Yeah, you know how I feel about the snow.
Oh, yeah, me too, dude. I just hide from it.
So let's give a shout out to the Lando here. I know we don't have video, but we got this badass lion statue in our little cave, our little
mascot.
Yeah, he is our mascot. His name is Tucker. Lando picked him up from somewhere in California at one of these weird like statue vendor things. And
yeah, describe it. What it looks like, it's about, 2 feet tall, maybe a foot and a half. Yeah. Ceramic.
He's kind of rubbery.
Is he rubbery?
Maybe he's ceramic. I don't know. I'm not a fucking
He's
expert.
regal as hell, though.
Yeah, he looks wise.
I like it, yeah.
Like he's overlooking this podcast studio, and I mean,
we needed something in here, didn't?
Yeah, he's pretty bitching.
Yeah, I like it, bro.
He's chilling out right next to the garbage belt kids. So if old Brett Vett gets out of hand, he's getting mauled.
Yep, I'm gonna get it by the old lion. Put him up.
Foot you with both hands behind my back. Anyway, well, let's roll right into this, man.
Let's do it, man.
I want to fire off a question for you, okay?
All right, what you got?
Would you rather spend a year as a cop or as a teacher in an inner city neighborhood?
Oh, that one's easy. Cop.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I'd end up beating somebody's kid, I think. And I think, yeah, it'd be a little easier to be a cop. Kids anymore are just ruthless, bro.
Yeah, true. I actually went with teacher.
You did?
Yeah, I felt like I would have a greater satisfaction, like maybe working with the youth. Like if I could just change that one kid. Like you remember the movie Dangerous Minds, right?
Nope.
Michelle Pfeiffer, fucking Dangerous Minds?
Oh, yeah. When she goes in that that school that's
what I thought of. I want to be Michelle Pfeiffer in Dangerous. I mean, I don't actually want to do either, but I would rather save a life than just deal with all the criminal bullshit.
You know, to think about it, it'd be rough to be a cop. You know what I mean? You got to give props to our police out there.
100%.
Yeah, because they go through some shit, man.
Yeah.
To have people lie to you all day long and try to just maintain a biased attitude towards stuff and to look at everything, with new eyes all day long when people are lying, that would be too hard for me,
So my father-in-law was a cop for a number of years, and that's what he said. The majority of that job is you're just dealing with kind of the worst of the worst most days. So
and that would be a hard part of it, but honest, and I see what you're getting, or see what you're saying when you say that you'd like to change somebody's life. That would be all right, but man, it would be hard working with kids.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't want to do either, but I'd rather work with a kid than a criminal.
Yeah, I think I could do it. I'd be a cop. All right, let me ask you one, dude. Would you rather have a rewind button or a pause button on your life?
Going pause button, 100%.
Pause? Why is that?
My wife and I talk about this all the time. There's kind of a little inside joke. I'm not going to use the words. If she listens, she'll know what I'm talking about. But essentially, we talk about moments in our life where we wish we could just hit pause And so I definitely wouldn't want to live in the past and go back and rewind and do stuff differently and change the outcome of anything in my life. But there are some times when I hit that good moment that I'd love to just hit pause.
And kind of sit on it for a bit.
100%.
Right.
What about you?
I want a rewind button. I would like to go back and change some stuff.
Would you go back and gamble like in Back to the Future 2 with the Sports Almanac?
I don't think I would. I'm not much of a gambler.
Even if you knew the outcome?
Knowing what I know now, absolutely
Yeah.
I would. That'd be one of the first things. But no, there's just a bunch of things that I wish I hadn't taken things for granted so much as a kid. I did
But it
that.
takes grown up to learn that.
Hindsight's always 20/20.
I just had a conversation with this about my wife and my older son about Landon, actually about just saying you're grateful and appreciating things and actually really understanding what that means at a young age, I think are two different things.
I do too. I think it's hard to see you can't look back on anything.
Right.
You can always say that you're grateful for whatever, but
Right.
you don't really have that understanding of
You
it.
got to walk through the fire to get it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So me, I'd most definitely, I'd have a rewind button.
So would yours go something like this? Hi, I'm Trevor, baby. How are you?
Absolutely.
Nice.
It'd sound exactly like that.
All right. Trevor, if you could choose to do anything for one day and one day only, what would it be?
Probably, I don't know, experience something really cool and far away, something that I haven't been able to do or knew that I wouldn't be able to do again. I mean, if I could just blink myself there, I don't know, go visit the pyramids or some cool location somewhere and just, do that for one day. I know it sounds small and petty or whatever,
No, that's the name of this game, man. You
Right.
get to answer it how you want.
but what would you do?
I would be an expert motocrosser for a day.
You'd try some of that out?
Well, I mean, I get to be a professional, so yeah, it would be like not a noob.
Right.
But yeah, it would be badass. And I could roll with the rep crew for a day, kind of experience their life.
Right.
So, by the way, let me give him a shout out. My man Hayden, who was on the podcast back in December, took first place in the Fox Racing Moto this last weekend. So,
Oh, wow.
hats off to him. That's tough to do, man. Like when you race at that pro level,
All right.
I mean, everybody's good.
No, absolutely. I get
So-
it. No, good job, Hayden.
Yeah. Hats off to you, Hayden. Congratulations.
All right. What motivates you to work hard, Drew?
Family, wife, and
Family.
kids.
Yep.
Yep. The
I can see
whole
that.
reason I drag my ass out of bed every day and do pretty much anything.
Have you always been a hard worker?
100%.
Yeah.
Grew up in the ghetto, man.
Yep.
Had to.
Yep. You got to grab it. Nobody else is going to grab it
Right.
for you. No,
Yeah,
I get
there
it.
was nobody ahead of me paving a trail, so I figured I'd just have to do it myself, try to make life easier on the generations behind me.
Right.
What about you, man? What motivates Trevor to work hard?
It depends on the situation, really. I mean, I've worked since I was real little, grew up on a farm, so working wasn't really hard. It was just part of the day. You know what I mean? We got up early, we went to bed late. And it just, I guess, being able to accomplish the task at hand that you're doing, and getting the satisfaction of being able to say, hey, yeah, I did a good job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I think pride has a lot to do with it, too.
It does.
I do not ever want to hand out in life. I do not ever want to not earn my way. So I think pride has a lot to do with motivating me to work hard.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and that's just it. You got to take a little bit of pride in what you do, If you don't, then what's the point of even doing it?
Well, speaking about work, let's talk about best jobs we've ever had.
All right, what's the best job you ever had?
So when I was 14, I worked in the catering department at a university. And it was probably, I think minimum wage back then was like $3 or $3.65 or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was fun, man. We fed the football team, every event that happened. I got to do some cool stuff and see some cool stuff and be around some cool stuff, just setting up banquets and catering for shit. There's a lot of shit that went on at the university.
Right.
So that was probably the best job I ever had.
Right on.
not by money standards by any means, but two, I was 14. So $3 an hour when you're 14, that's a shit ton of dough.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Especially in the 80s.
Was it your first job?
Yes.
Yeah, very first.
Aside from paper routes and hustling,
Right.
hustling the hood. Yeah, that was my first legitimate job.
That's like me. I said I grew up on a farm. You know what I mean? So I did a lot of farm work growing up. And then my first job, I was a dishwasher at a bowling alley.
Really?
Yeah, and I loved it. Yeah, it was awesome.
Nice. But what was your favorite job or your best job?
My favorite job, now that one's I was a longshoreman, and longshoremen, they deliver and load and unload basically all the cargo that comes into the States by container ship.
Well, let's roll with this today as just our topic then.
All right, you want to talk about longshoremen?
Yeah,
Right.
I do. You and I had a conversation a long time ago, just briefly about kind of what this is and how much you loved it. And I couldn't believe how interesting it was, because I'm not quite sure people understand how all the shit that we use and consume and buy and all that gets here.
And especially living in a landlocked state, it's something you don't think about.
Right.
You know, we see trains and trucks. You know, we don't see container ships and stuff. So.
Right. So tell me then, just in simple layman's terms, like what exactly is a longshoreman?
Longshoremen take care of like all the port jobs on the ports, you know, say in LA or Washington or just wherever there's a port. And
They're on the East Coast too, I would imagine?
East and West Coast. I was on the West Coast. I was part of the ILWU. It's the International Longshore and Warehousing Union. And what we did was, like I say, we unload and load container ships. And the jobs that went were so spread out. You could be driving a yard dog one day, taking containers off the ship and putting them somewhere in another parking lot.
Well, that's good that you bring that up, because what I want to know is what exactly is the process from when a ship arrives to the job being done, or like what the job is?
Well, that depends too. Some ships, they can come in for, you know, one day, a certain amount of moves that a certain amount of cargo that needs to either come off the ship or be put on the ship. But for the most part, where I was working, the container ships were there for about 2 or 3 days.
So I didn't even think about that. That's also loading
And unloading.
for us to send stuff overseas.
Absolutely. Yep.
To other countries.
To other countries, yep.
So would there ever be a scenario where a ship would port on the West Coast, you would load stuff onto it, and it would drive around to the East Coast? Or is it only...
I'm not sure what the shipping routes are on it, but I don't think so. I know we got a lot of stuff from China. China was huge. In fact, a lot of the containers and stuff, like Yang Ming, or I'm pretty sure that's Chinese. We had Hyundai. I think that's Japanese. Maersk. I'm not sure where Maersk is out of. Husky and Sealand. These are all companies that, you know, like the shipping companies. But I don't think that they would go from the East Coast or from the West Coast to the East Coast. Once it's brought here, it either goes on a train or a truck, semi somewhere, and then goes out. But whatever comes in on the East Coast, I'm sure does the same way that way. You know what I'm saying?
So if I was going to break this down in a simple terms, a ship comes in.
Container ship comes in.
Ports, like you guys anchor it or dock it or whatever.
Yep. There are stevedores that bring the ship in to actually park. And they're called the stevedores. And
what is that, a machine or a person?
Nope, it's a person. It's just another person. They come in and they basically help park the ship, I guess. I was never a stevedore. I was just a longshoreman.
And then somebody basically unloads all these giant containers.
Yep. And
they get put somewhere.
Yep.
And then is there different people that own the containers?
I'm not sure how that works. I couldn't tell you. I would think that it was probably through companies and whatnot. You know, we got shoes coming in and whatever's made anywhere else, you know, which is a lot of stuff.
Well, let's start from the beginning, because this shit's really interesting, actually.
And it's really complex. There's a lot into it.
Right.
So I'll be able to answer a lot of your questions. Some of them I won't, just because I don't know the ins and outs of that. But I can tell you what I did and what it does. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, I want to start at the beginning.
All right, let's start.
So, how you get this job is not like a normal job. You don't just apply for it and go do an interview, right?
Right. It used to be that way, I guess. Or no. Nope. I'm going to go back on that. No, it never was that way. It was you were grandfathered in when.
So generationally?
Generationally.
So if my dad was a longshoreman, automatically I could be a longshoreman.
Well, way back in the day, what they used to do was they would line up on the docks. And, yep, if you were your dad's kid and your dad worked hard and stuff, then there was another longshoreman, who's ever calling out the jobs. He knows your dad, so, of course, he's going to call your dad out. And then he's going to look at you and be like, all right, you're your dad's son. You better hold up to what he can do, go and work. They'd pick the best of the best that way, and it was generationally picked. So there's families that are in Longshore that have been there, for a really long time.
Is it common for that job to pass down from
not
through generations?
Not anymore with the way that laws and the way job laws are regulated. So now what they do is they have a lottery. And that's how I became a longshoreman. Was I won a lottery.
What, you just put your name in a little twirling ball and it gets pulled out?
Basically, what they do is they run an ad in the newspaper.
Okay, so that's how you know when the lottery is.
Right.
So it'll say longshoreman job lottery on whatever this day.
It'll say something along those lines. Are you interested in being a longshoreman? If so, fill out 2.5 by 5.5 postcard. Do it verbatim with your full name in caps, your phone number and address, and send it in to us. Well, that was part of the stipulation there for me because postcards don't come 2.5 by 5.5. They come 2 by 5. So they wanted to see if you were paying attention right there. And so what you had to do was you actually had to cut down the postcard and you send them in, and thousands of them come in. Okay. Because, people read it in the newspaper.
Cut it down or add to it?
You had to cut it down. They wanted a 2 by 5 postcard.
Oh,
right?
And they come 2.5 by
right.
5.
Yeah, I may have said that backwards. And so you literally had to cut that card down and then send it in. And
so did you know to do that, or did you have someone tell you, hey man, don't screw up, make sure you cut that card down?
I had a little inside help. Yeah, I had a buddy that was a longshoreman.
Okay.
And he's the one that got me into it, in fact. I was doing excavation on a island out in Washington, and
our favorite island, by the way,
our favorite Vashon is Vashon.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Gig Harbor.
No, Gig Harbor's not an island. Gig Harbor's just a.
You lived
harbor.
there.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to retire.
Yep.
But anymore, it's commercialized now. It used to be a cool little quaint town like Dawson's Creek kind of shit.
Loved Gig Harbor.
And when I first met my wife, I told her this is where I'm retiring. But now I think it's just a bunch of like Airbnbs and like condos and like touristy and
real
shit.
Uppity, man. Yeah. It's really gotten real uppity, and everybody wants to be there. There's 1 million people there.
Yeah, and it was small.
Right.
I loved the thing I loved about Gig Harbor, and this would have been back in the 90s, was that like the post office was the gas station and the grocery store. There was like one little building in town that was like 3 or 4 things.
I remember Gig Harbor when the bears used to walk around. There was a lot of bear in Gig Harbor, black bear. And to go there now, there's so many neighborhoods and stuff that have been put up that you're not going to see a bear anywhere. It's kind of gross. But no, I worked over on Vashon Island. I was doing excavation, and I had a partner that was a longshoreman. And he gave me the ins on it. He was like, hey, there's going to be a lottery. He told me there was going to be a lottery. We had to watch for it. Excuse me. Had to watch for it in the paper to come out and do exactly what it said. Fill out a 2 by 5 postcard verbatim, send it in. And what they did from there was they took the postcards that didn't get cut down and they just threw them out. And then so that subjected a whole bunch of people that they just lost. And then I can't remember what the number was on how many people that they were going to pick to come and get trained, but I had made the list to get trained. I think it was like 500 people. That's how many people they wanted to bring in.
So what originally drew you to that? If I'm not mistaken, it was just the money was good. Like, it wasn't the lure
Yeah.
of you wanted to be a longshoreman. You wanted the money, right?
I had never heard of a longshoreman
Right.
until I'd moved out to Washington.
So
Right.
you just wanted the money.
I needed a job, and I was told, look, it's going to be a good job, and if you can get it, man, this is not a job, a career. You know,
Okay.
it's, in fact, it's probably the highest paid blue collar job out there, and it's the strongest union in the world.
All right, so the paper brings out the lottery.
Right.
You cut your card down.
Yep.
You write your name on there,
Yep.
your address, your phone number. You send it in. They call you.
We wait a couple weeks,
Okay.
and then they put another ad in the paper of the list that made it.
So your name's in there.
So my
So
name's
500 names hit the paper.
My name was at the very end, dude. My name was the very
It's
last
not
one.
alphabetized.
It's not alphabetized. Nope. They just drew a bunch of names, and then from there, the 500 they picked or whatever
Right.
was come on down, and now you got to do your drug tests, your cognitive tests, your physical, and then you had to do, it's called a lashing test. It's lashing the containers down to the ship, and it's a pretty
So that's when they get loaded.
right.
So
right.
basically you're saying like strapping them
right,
down.
to strap them
Okay.
down. Yeah, you had to do a lashing test, and then
So do they teach you how to do that, or are you just supposed to know how to lash?
nope, you go in there, and after you pass, you do your physical, your drug test, the cog test. That in itself is going to weed out a whole bunch more other people. So I think we went in there 500 deep, and I think like only 160 of us made it. And so I was part of that 160. We go in, and then you can take the lashing test. If you pass that one, then you get to test again. You test on how to drive a yard dog. We called them hustlers, and that's what drives.
I'm just picturing a yard dog as like a glorified harbor forklift type machine.
Those little white cab over trucks that can just move a container anywhere. You've seen them around here all over Freeport Center. You know what I'm saying? They're just little cab over semi trucks that are just, you just move the containers around.
So I'm confused. Did you know how to lash, or did someone show you that, or you just went in there and made it up?
Nope. We go in there and they start the training, and then they show you how to lash.
Oh, so they
Yep.
teach you
Yep,
how to do it.
They teach you how to do it, but then you have to go take a test on it. It's like a physical test on, you have to hang, they're bars. What they are, if you ever look at a container ship, or, next time you see a picture of a container ship, look and see how those containers are on the ship, and they're lashed down with great big bars, and they get put up into the corners of the crate, and they make a big X. And then with these turnbuckles, they tighten them down to the thing. Well, those lashing bars are pretty heavy. They're hard to maneuver. You don't have a lot of room to work on the ship. You're on a small, aisle. If you ever look at a container ship, you'll see how the containers sit in there. And so it's a pretty rigorous job. You got to be able to do it safely and, without hurting people or anything, or yourself. And you got to be able to keep up with the job.
So is the test the same day as the training? Is it like, this is how you
Nah,
lash, now
it's-
go out and lash, or do you get some time to really learn how to do it?
You get some time. You go in there, you watch a couple videos from what I can remember. Then you go out there and they show you how to hang the bars and what kind of way to do it and where you can set them down. And then when you feel that you're ready to go do it, you have to go hang, I think it's like 15 bars and 15 slots. And then you have to remove them in a certain amount of time. And you have to set these bars down in a certain space. They have to be hung properly, sit there, not move, and then you have to take them down properly and store them. And it's all got to be done within a certain amount of time. It's pretty rigorous. There was a guy that had a heart attack in our training, and he just died out there doing it. So
would you say that you have to be more physically capable or mentally capable to do that?
it's, for the lashing, physical,
Okay.
yeah. But there's a lot of mental jobs in there too. You can get supervisor jobs where you're dealing with numbers and you're looking at,
Yeah, that'd be more my job.
right. But
I would just say, Trevor, go out and lash that shit.
no, you would go out there and you'd lash it with us, man. It was a good time. It was awesome.
Okay, so you passed the lashing test. Let's just fast forward. Now you get the job.
Yep, you passed the lashing test, and now they're starting to see, okay, he's passed these tests. He's got the potential. Then they teach you you got to learn how to drive one of those yard dogs and park a container, and do it, with the
How
quick.
big are these containers? They're quite large, right?
Yeah.
Are they
50.
all different sizes, or
Oh,
is
yeah.
there just one size?
They're like 50 to 53 feet, and then there's 20 footers. Those were the main size of containers that I was moving around. Cool. But you learn how to park all 3 different sizes, how to pull them out, how to do it efficiently and quick, so the ship can get out there and you can go home to your family. But that. Like I said, that's the lashing and the driving yard dogs. Those are just, I guess, 2 of the main jobs that are down there. But you could be there. There's a lot of jobs on the dock that you cover as a longshoreman, and you're trained for all of them.
Okay. Before you get hired.
Before you go down onto the dock, you're trained on all of it.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, because people don't get hurt on the dock. People get killed.
Right. So my question is, you go from 500 to 160 to how many get a job? Is that put in? Is it different each round of lottery, or is it always?
It is. That the time I came in, I think that's the way it was. It was like over 2,000 or 3,000 people entered the lottery. They picked 500 of us. Out of those 500, 160 of us made it.
Made it. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So you guys, and then what? You join a union?
Yep. And then we're part of the ILWU.
Okay, cool.
The International Longshore Warehousing Union.
So once you go through, so what's a time frame on that from point of postcard to signing up with the union? Are we talking 2 weeks, a month?
Month and a half, maybe. Yep, because you got to put in all the time.
Are you getting paid during this time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep, you're getting paid.
So you leave your excavating job to go try to be a longshoreman. You're not just training for free, right?
Nope. I stayed excavating because I'm not guaranteed as a job. I'm not guaranteed a job as a longshoreman when I go out. What we would do is we would show up to a union hall, and I got hired on as a casual longshoreman. And there's a couple classes. There's A men, they're at the top. There's B men, there's identified casuals, and there's unidentified casuals. Most people, when they're starting out, I guess, they would start out as an unidentified casual. And what that means is you're an unidentified casual longshoreman worker, which means you can come to the union hall.
Every morning.
There's a couple picks. They're called picks. You can come there in the morning or at night. If you were an unidentified casual, you could not go into the union hall. You had to stay outside, because you had to wait for A men to get their jobs,
right,
B men to get their jobs, casuals to get their jobs, and then as an unidentified casual, they would come out and you get the slim pickings of the rest. I was hired on as a casual longshoreman.
So you skipped the very first step.
Yep, I kind of got in at a really good in, because I was able to go into the hall and actually line up for a job. And like I was saying, you're not guaranteed a job every day, but you do want to go and show up for these picks every day. And how that would work is there's so many A men, there's so many B men, there's so many casuals, there's so many unidentified casuals. After they would take out the A men and the B men, they would go get their jobs. All of us casuals, you would start out at the first of the month under 0 hours. Everybody had 0 hours. And then you would look at a board, and each day you would have a randomly generated spin number. It was called a spin.
So each day for the calendar month, not for the week.
Each day for the week, just the week.
Monday through Sunday
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
Yep, or Monday through Sunday, and then it would change again.
So your name's on there essentially, and you're just assigned a number.
Yep, your name's on there, and you're assigned a number. Everybody at the beginning of the month starts out at 0 hours, but that random spin number that you have is going to dictate where you're going to line up for a job. So if me and you were to go into a job, and I'm like, Drew, where are you sitting for the week? It's Monday. We're both at 0 hours. You see, my number's 17. And my number's 22. It means you're the 17th person to sit in line and wait for a job to come back. I'm the 22nd person to sit in line.
So if there's 16 jobs, we're both screwed.
If there's 16 jobs, we go home. Yep. And then you come to the next pick. That's at 5 o'clock that night. And how that works is, okay, so we started under 0 hours, right? And I say you were 17 and I was 22, okay? That means you got out that morning. If only 21 jobs came, you got out that morning and I didn't, right? So you get to work all day long, and then you can also come back for a pick later that night, but you can't line up under 0. You have to line up under 8 now, but you also have your spin number. And so we go back in that night, say you decided you wanted to push it, you worked that day and you want to work that night. Well, in order for you to work now, you've got to line up behind the zeros,
right?
Because you're an 8,
and then I got to get back to 17,
and you go back to 17. Absolutely. So I would go in that night, and I would get my job, because I was sitting at 22.
So you'd be first,
right?
Because it ended at 21.
Ended at 21.
Right.
Yep.
So you're the first one to get a job.
Yep.
If there's jobs.
Yep. If there's jobs that are coming out, and so I would go in, and then I would get my job, and say there was a couple more ships that came in later that night, and you knew it, and that's why you came in, because you knew you had a good chance of getting a job. All the zeros got out, and now they're lining back up the 8s,
right?
And you're only at 17. Now, had you been at 8 and you were, your spin number was 400, you probably, and there wasn't, say, that much work, you probably would have been like, all right, well, I worked tonight, I'm going to go home.
So once you get your spin number, that just lasts for the week.
For the day. One spin number a day. So on Monday, your spin number would be 17.
Then I go back the next day, it could be whatever.
And then Tuesday, like I say, you look at that board, and on that board, it's going to have your numbers on there for the week. So Monday, you're 17. Tuesday, you're 53. Wednesday, you're 2.
And so there's somebody that gets paid just to draw fucking numbers all day long.
I'm not sure how that works. I'm sure it's just a random generated spin number, and everybody just starts out at 0. So I doubt anybody's going to do that.
So question for you, how do you jump from unidentified to identified to B class?
It's a horse
to
race.
A class.
It's a horse race.
Is it tenure?
Nope. It's about 5 years. It took me, and that's another thing. There was a lot of work when I came in. I started as an unidentified casual, and I made sure that my ass was at the hall every day for every pick, even if there wasn't work, even if I knew that there wasn't any. You call up a number, and they tell you how many jobs are coming out, and if it didn't look like there was any work, I'd still go down to that hall. And
so you call prior to going down there.
You call up a number.
So if they got 10 jobs and you're number 450, chances are you're just staying home.
Yep, you're just staying home. And you didn't have to work every day as a longshoreman. All you had to do was maintain 70% of the workload that was going out that everybody was getting. So if you're a mook and you're just sitting home and not wanting to go in, you can lose your hours with the quickness. Someone could go to work 4 times in 2 days. You know what I mean?
Day and night shifts.
Day and night shifts.
Right.
You have to have like a day off in between, I think.
Legally.
Legally. But you can work the day side and the night side, or you can work the night side, and it's what they call a hoot owl. And the hoot owl is like from 3 in the morning till 6 in the morning, 2 in the morning till 6 in the morning, something like that. But you get paid the whole 8 hours. Or you can
every shift you get is 8 hours.
Every
shift.
shift.
It's 1 hour of work.
Yep.
Does it ever go over 8 hours?
Nope.
So 8 hours is the max.
8 hours, and you're
But
done.
if you can get the job done in 2, you're getting 8 hours pay.
Yep. There was times where I would go to the ship, and if the ship only had 3 more containers to move, and I was the third dude there, if I got that job as a hustler driver, I'd go move a container and go home for the day, and I got paid all day for it. Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, really nice. And then there's different pay scales. I'm not going to go into the numbers but they were pretty.
Are the pay scales associated with the levels A, B, casuals, or are they associated more with the job?
With the job. Yep. So if you're driving truck, that's a standard. If you're driving a hustler, that's standard pay, for the day side. On the night side, it's going to go up a little bit higher. If you're a foreman up on the ship and you're talking to the crane operator who's moving these containers from the ship to the driver, you're getting paid a little bit more. You're dealing with numbers. If you're a supervisor and you're down on the dock and you're running numbers from the containers to a computer, putting them, where they need to go into whatever, you're probably getting a little bit more money.
So you're cataloging the inventory, essentially.
Right. You're where the containers are going.
So
we don't know
many
what's
jobs,
in the containers.
Let's talk. How many jobs are associated with like longshoring? Is it like hundreds, or is there
Not
like
hundreds.
a group of like 10 jobs?
There's, I would say about 10, 15, 20, maybe even more jobs out there. Because like I say, you could be driving a truck. It's called an extra man on the dock when you're telling the crane operator where to set the container down, or telling the truck driver to come up a little bit more. You're underneath, the crane is called the hook, and you're as a extra man under the hook, I think you're getting a standard pay or whatever. But no, man, you can be a foreman, a supervisor, a truck driver. When you're real high up in it and you're supercargo, or you're an A-man, you get jobs like a supercargo. Now you're up in the buildings and you're dealing with what ships are coming in, what containers are going where. You know, it just goes higher and higher and higher that way.
So are there specific jobs to each category, or is it just there's 20
There
jobs?
are, yep.
So I guess an A-man, would you ever do the same job as a casual guy, or are you just beyond that?
Sometimes A-men get to pick their jobs. They go out there and they don't even have to sit for pick. They just have to line up under their hours, and they can walk up to a bench and they can be like, all right. And that was the cool thing.
Same process, though. They get a spin number.
Yeah, they get a spin number, but they get to pick their jobs. They get to go out. We were handed a pamphlet, and whatever was on the pamphlet, you had to sign it. It didn't matter what you were doing, and if you didn't feel comfortable doing it.
But as an A-man, you don't.
As an A-man,
you
go
next
in there.
in line, you go up, and whatever the next best job is, you're taking.
Absolutely, yep. So if you knew a container ship was leaving early and one was coming in, they didn't have very many moves on it. You could go in and be like, all right, I want to be a driver on that ship that's leaving here in a couple hours, and then I want to be an extra man or whatever on the dock of this ship that's coming in. You just get to pick your jobs.
Only an A-man.
Only A-men. Yep.
So then B-men
and casuals, they still line up and they're handed the paper, and you have to sign it.
Sign it as being, I'll do any job on this paper, or you're signing it the job you want?
You sign the next one in line. So they'll hand you a pamphlet of truck drivers, right? And if you got a truck driving job, then you just sign the next slot that's right there. Boom. If that pamphlet ran out, the guy in front of you, he hands it back to the guy that's handing you the jobs, and that guy hands you another pamphlet. All right, this one's full of extra man jobs. Looks like I'm an extra man today. So you sign that one. But you don't get to pick your job. You just sign the next line.
So, okay, then I know that you don't know exactly how many jobs, but let's go back to my opening question or whatever about the process. So essentially, is there two different sections between incoming and outgoing, or is it just like, do you work in a different section, or you could be standing in the same spot one day unloading a ship and the next day that same spot is loading a ship, or is there like an in and out?
Yep. You could be there, for 3 days as an extra man or a truck driver or a foreman.
Unloading.
Yeah, unloading the ship. Yeah. Yep.
So it can take 3 days to unload one of these.
That's usually what it takes. If they're moving a lot of cargo, then yeah, because it'll take you a couple days to unload everything, and then or a day and a half to unload everything.
So the guy guides the ship into the dock.
Mm-hmm.
It docks.
The stevedores.
And then the unlashers go to town and start unlashing all the crates.
Yep. So they call it into the dock. And then, earlier if I was over at the Union Hall and I got a lashing job and they were moving, whatever bays, then, I would go up on the ship before the truck drivers even get there. I mean, we all start at the same time, but we would go up there and we'd start delashing the ship. Everybody's got to wait for us to delash. But once we were done delashing the ship, if nothing else was going on the ship or whatever, then we were done lashing.
So that was your job for the day.
That was your job for the day.
So if you delashed that thing in 3 hours, you got your 8 hours pay, you went home. And then the truck drivers came in.
Yep, and then they'd spend the rest of the days loading it up, however long it takes to get all those containers out.
So a crane picks it up off the thing, sets it on this warthog or
on a hustler.
Okay,
Yep.
What's the hog thing you're talking about?
The hog?
The truck.
A hustler. That's a hustler.
Oh, you called it something else.
A yard dog.
Yard dog.
Yeah.
Same thing?
Yeah, yard dogs and hustlers are the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So crane picks it up,
Yep.
puts it on this little truck. You got 3 guys, one in the crane, one guy under the hook telling them
2 guys under the hook usually.
how to line it up.
Yep. And they'll put it on either a chassis or a bomb cart. Chassis is just a chassis, it'd be like what's under the
truck bed.
The truck bed. Right. A bomb cart is just basically a big carriage that the container sits in, and then you take that container out to a different part of the yard, and it's called top pick. And a top pick's like a great big, I guess almost a forklift, but not. It picks up the container from the top of the container, and it's able to stack them like 3 or 4 high. But you'll drive up in a line, and this top pick will come and pick up that container off of your bomb cart, and then you go back under the hook and you grab another one. He'll put that container where it needs to be, and you just keep doing that all day long.
So and then there's just some smart A guys that are basically cataloging all this and telling you where to put all the
supervisors. So if
I'm Nike,
okay,
right, and I'm getting shoes shipped in, let's say, I don't even know if that's Nike does that. I'm just using this as an example.
Right.
So I call up the shipping yard and I rent some shipping space and I say, I got 4 containers that are supposed to be on this ship. Put them here.
I don't know how all that works. Like I said, that's like amen type job. I'm not sure the logistics of all that, how that works. All I know is the containers.
But everything has to go to a certain spot, right?
Oh yeah. So that as a truck driver, as me driving a Hustler, I'd have a computer.
Let's call it a yard dog. I like that better.
Okay,
yard dog.
Yard dog.
You look like a yard dog guy. You're not driving a Hustler. You're driving a yard dog.
No, you're hustling because you want to get the ship either emptied or full so you can go home with your family. So I think that's why they call them hustlers. But we'll call it a yard dog just for the safe. So I got my yard dog job. Okay, sign the pad. I go to work. I get on the dock and I'm sitting there and the ship just came in while we were grabbing our.
Can I ask you
numbers.
one question before you continue? Just because I'm confused. So, what time do you, if you want the day shift, what time do you go to the hall to like try to get a job?
It was like 6 in the morning.
6 in the morning.
Yep.
So as it goes down, if you're not the D-lasher, but you're the truck driver, then you might not start work until 10 or 11 or whatever. Right.
But you're just sitting inside of a break room waiting for lashers.
For 4 hours.
Yep.
But you're not getting paid until you start driving the truck.
Oh,
right?
you're getting paid.
So your 8 hours starts in so if you sit there for 4 hours waiting for the D-lashers, then you're only driving the truck for 4 hours?
Mm-hmm. And you sat there all day, and then you drove the truck for 4 hours, and you got paid all day.
So to a lot of people, they would think that sounds awesome. That would drive me nuts to go to work and not work for half of the day.
You would end up, well, no, that can be a pain in the butt, but there's such a community down there that
you're just hanging out.
You're just hanging out. You're just hanging out.
Hustling yard doggers, man.
You go down there and you're sitting in a break room waiting to work with your buddies. You know, you're all there doing the same thing. And it wasn't like you were sitting there waiting for days to go to work as a truck driver. There was days you go there and you better be at the hook right then.
Because somebody might have de-lashed some stuff during the night, right?
Because and they've been working that shift for 2 days. That all the de-lashing's done. Now you just got to move containers all day.
So you're changing jobs every day?
You could be, yep.
But I mean, if you get on a ship where it's 3 days to unload it, are you just driving the truck? Are you doing the same job till the ship's unloaded, or do you just...
No, you could be driving a Hustler for a couple days straight. You know, it depends on where you line up and what jobs are coming back and how long the ship's going to be there, how many containers need to be moved. It all depends. There was days where I was driving a Hustler all day to where all I was getting was Hustler jobs. But there's other days where you go in there, one day you're going to get a Hustler job. The next day you're going to get a extra man job. The next day you're going to get a foreman job. The next day you're going to get a supervisor job.
So you're not guaranteed a different job based on tenure, essentially, unless you're an A guy. Because I would imagine the A guys are, if they get to pick, they're taking the best stuff early on, right?
Absolutely.
But from B and then your 2 casuals, like it's because B's aren't picking either. They're just assigned a job.
Yep. But there's still plenty of good jobs down there to come back to B men and casuals.
So I guess 2 questions I would have then are there funner or more fun or better jobs, or is it just whatever you like to do?
Yeah, I guess it's all preference. I'm not good with numbers, and so I'd get into a supervisor truck and I'd freak out because it's go. You've got to be on top of if you ever look at a container in the top right-hand corner, there's usually a couple letters and numbers up there. It'll usually say like HMADU 144878898. And then a handful of other numbers below it. And so you need to, look on your computer. It's going to tell you if the ship's, emptying or loading, depending on what you're doing. That, if you're unloading the ship, you're looking at that number, you type it in your computer, it pulls up and automatically tells you where it needs to be in the yard. So I need to talk to the truck driver over radio. All right, truck 25, go to row A, put it in 24. And you're constantly on the computer and on the walkie-talkie all night with these truck drivers. So
you hated that job.
I hated it. I didn't like it. Sometimes it was okay to where if I only had to look at like HDMU, put it in the thing, put in another number, it was fine. But I walk under a light and it'll go out. I'm horrible with computers. I always fuck up and I'll hit the wrong button. So that was my kind of thing there. You know what I mean? Just, I don't know, I get scared around numbers. So I could do anything physical, driving a truck, lashing, extra man, that shit's fine.
So I guess the question of is there harder or easier ones, it would just really depend on if you're super strong and a worker or more mathematical or what.
Yep, more brainy. Or
so could you ever switch? Like if you wanted to, if your buddy got the delashing and you got the numbers, could you say, hey bro, I'll trade you?
No,
that was frowned upon.
Yeah, no, you're going to do the job that you signed on that paper, and you're going to do it until the job's done. And there's the mentality down there is like, you know what a roughneck is? The oil workers that work on the oil rigs. It's the same kind of mentality down there, dude. There's a lot of hard asses on the port, and you better be a hard worker, or everybody's going to hate you. So there's no light feet down there, dude. Everybody's pushing their weight.
Yeah, this sounds like it's quite the operation.
It is. I was going to say those are the benefits when I say a truck, a ship would leave and you worked it for 3 hours and then you got to go home. Yeah, but it didn't happen all the time down there. And then you were always putting your best foot forward when you worked down there because you had a higher up somewhere looking at you. And you don't want to be looked at as a piece of shit because you're working with these people, not just as a job, like if you worked at Home Depot and you might work there for 2 years and then switch jobs or whatever. No, it's a career and you're there for life. These people know people's families. You know what I mean? I mean, it's so involved that I don't know if I can get in trouble talking about this, but there's probably mafia and shit ran in it, dude. There's probably some dirt that's ran down at the port. It's a big, big entity.
So is it going on 24 hours a day?
24 hours a day.
So there's always somebody working.
The world's always moving.
Right.
But and what's weird is because I haven't done it so long, I want to know how this COVID shit's affected it. I unfortunately don't talk to any of my longshore buddies anymore, but I'm sure that's really wrecked a lot of these people's pockets.
So is there a ship schedule?
Oh, yeah.
So somebody knows at any given point these ships are arriving at this time.
Yep.
It's coming. It should be here at this time. It's got this many containers, and so that's how they're planning workload.
Yep. That's the A-man and stuff and the supercargoes. They're talking to these ship guys, and and they know what's ordered to be in what port at what day and doing what.
So what kind of stuff comes into a port? Literally anything?
Everything from shoes to freaking bodies, bro. There's been people found in containers on the port. There's drugs.
Like trying to sneak in
or from these other countries, dude. You get like some container from Indonesia or something somewhere, and these people are trying to come overseas, and it's part of the. Yeah, there's been people found in containers. There's been drugs, but for the most part, it's just goods that people use. It's computers, it's shoes, it's everything that we use. Everything comes by ship.
So that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this today. Like I said, I'm not quite sure people understand how everything they buy, everything they order on Amazon, everything they get at Walmart or grocery stores or Best Buys or whatever. I mean, there are some things that are made in America, but a lot of it isn't.
A lot of it is being brought here. No, right. Absolutely.
So I don't know why this is so fascinating to me. But when I think of a shipping yard, I think of that map on Call of Duty that I used to love climbing around all those shipping crates and sniping people.
Right.
But my question is, we get the ship delashed.
Mm-hmm.
The crane pulls off these containers, sets them on one of these 2-type trucks.
Right.
The bomb or the
bomb
chassis.
carts or chassis.
And then somebody tells this truck where to go put that container.
Right.
So is there another crane over there that takes it off the truck and puts it in its little slot?
That's the top pick I was talking about.
Okay.
Yep. It's like I wish I could.
But they don't top pick the chassis, only the bomb carts.
Only, yeah, because the container's connected to the chassis itself. That's probably once it goes on.
So
its
it
way,
unhooks like a semi.
on the chassis.
Right.
Yeah, there's locking pins on all four corners, and as an extra man, when you're underneath the crane, that's part of your job. You're telling the container to come down. You put these pins in the bottom of the container, and they click down into the chassis. You flip a little lever, and it locks them in place, and they're part of that now. That container's part of that chassis.
Right. So then I drive it, and then I don't unhook the container. I just unhook the chassis.
You just unhook the chassis,
and I leave it parked in the slot.
Parked there. You go to another area.
Hook up a fresh chassis.
Hook up a fresh chassis. Come right back to the hook.
Okay.
Yep. And there's in each. They're called gangs, and you could be working under 3 or 4 hooks on one ship, and there could be 3 or 4 gangs of 10 drivers. So there's a lot of trucks down there going underneath these hooks. You know what I mean? And then
someone's coordinating all that.
That's
another job.
Yep, that's the supervisors and the extra men.
I'd have to think that these crane guys are getting paid the most fucking money.
The crane operators are getting paid bank, and they only work 4 hours a day, and they get paid bank. You're looking down all day, in between your feet. Stories,
right?
So many feet. Your depth perception gets all fucked up, and you need a lot of time on the docks before you can even apply for that job. You have to be an A-man for so many years. I think like 20 years. I think you need 20 years experience on the dock. I don't know if that's being A-man included before they'll even put you up for training for that. But, and the crane operators are making money. Yes.
So once all these little containers are taken to their spot, is that the end of the longshore job? As far as getting these containers off the dock and onto semis that get delivered to wherever.
As long as it's on the port, yep. And then there'll be truck drivers, that come to the port to different locations in the port to come and pick up these trailers to go wherever they're going to go.
And then they get emptied.
Right, yep. And your job stops as a longshoreman off, it's all on the port. But another job we had was cars. When you think of other cars, like all these Japanese, made cars and stuff that come over, they come over on car ships. And if I was to get a car ship job where I was driving cars, the car ship come in, you go in there with a group of people, however many people got that car job, 50 people or whatever, and everybody goes in there, and for the first couple hours, we delash every car in there. Everybody's on their hands and knees running around, pulling off these lashings, these straps, getting these cars ready. When they're all delashed, then we start driving the cars off the ship, and we drive those to another yard, park off some. Yep, and then there's a bus driver that would take us back to the ship, and it's balls to the walls, full board. You get that car as fast as you can over to that parking lot. You park it, you get your ass on a bus and get back to the ship, and it's all day.
One.
Yep, as fast as you can unload those cars.
And then what? So then what? A car semi would come and load them up.
Yep.
And haul them off to dealerships or wherever they got to go.
Yep. Or they drive them to dealerships or stuff.
So until they're loaded on a truck and off the port, it's your responsibility.
Right. It's the port's responsibility.
Okay.
Yep. Even with the military, there was military ships. Man, it was neat. Even the military is not contracted to take a longshoreman's job. Isn't that neat? Can you think about that? The ILWU is so strong that in their contract that it doesn't matter. If it's a military ship and if it's coming into port, it's the longshoreman that's unloading it. It's not the military.
So you're unloading tanks and shit?
And Hummers and Strikers, bro. I've driven tanks. I've driven Strikers. I've driven Hummers.
Wow.
And yeah, as a citizen, and that's neat.
And then you just go park them?
You go park them, yep.
How fast does a tank drive?
I didn't get to drive it that fast, but boy, I look cool going down the road with a helmet on, driving that fucker. Yeah. Yeah, neat stuff, dude. Saw helicopters being brought off the ship. that had just come back.
So are they flown off, or are they put on little trailers and driven off?
The crane will pick up like the helicopters. They'll put it on a bomb cart or whatever.
Oh,
more,
wow.
Yeah, more longshoremen will go down there and.
Are you talking like some Black Hawk Down shit?
Absolutely.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yep. And that's why I say we removed Hummers and stuff. They had bullet holes in them and looked like shit. And yeah, you see a lot of shit down there, man.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yep.
So is that your craziest thing you've ever seen while working at the port?
No, probably death. This is the craziest thing I've seen.
Like an employee.
Yeah.
I would imagine one of these cables breaks and a crate falls on them or something.
Exactly. Yep. There was a.
So what do you do? Like, does the crane just pick the container back up and someone comes and gets the body and you just go on with your business, or do they shut the port down, or what?
That was exactly what happened in one of my cases. I saw a guy lose his thumb, but he lost it from the meaty part of his hand, and it wasn't cut off, it was knocked off by force,
Like ripped off,
like
tore,
like knocked off by
Wow.
like someone took a baseball bat to your hand and
hit it
knocked
so hard
and
that
hit
it
it
fell
so
off.
and hit it so hard that it knocked it off and was hanging by me. And that was a guy. He was a German guy, and he was helping these new guys lash on the ship that hadn't really had experience. They'd passed the test, but they hadn't. And there's certain places you can put your hands, and he had his hands in the wrong spot. It was in between some of these lashing bars, and a turnbuckle slipped after it had been tightened down so far. It had popped back up, but it knocked his hand. And yeah,
Was it pretty common? Like, are injuries and deaths common, or are they? Or I would think that you guys have such safety protocols, and it sounds like you do so much training, where it's such a dangerous job. I mean, is it common, or is it pretty rare that something nasty? I mean, cuts, slits, things like that. I can see all day long. You're doing physical labor.
that's just it. People aren't getting cut and slit down there. When people are getting hurt on Longshoreman, they're usually dying, or you're getting maimed. We didn't work with pounds. We worked with tonnage, and tonnage.
a good thing.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a good explanation, not a good thing. But that's what I was trying to say.
Right. Yeah. Tonnage tends not to hurt people. It kills you or maims you.
But how often is that?
It's
a daily
not
thing?
No, it's not by any means. It's not daily, because there, the safety in there is implied, and people, you walk around with your head on a swivel all the time over there, because you're dealing with that. But for the majority of the injuries that happen down there, a lot of people aren't walking back from them. I did watch a lady get crushed under a container.
How far did the container fall? Like way off the top of the crane?
2 stories.
So when they pick it up off the ship, they're raising it way high as they swing it over to load it on a truck?
They only lift it up as high as what they need to. And so
So you're talking 20 feet, what, a story's 10 feet, right?
probably,
So 20 feet, this big ass metal container full of shit is falling. And she was in the wrong place at the wrong, whose fault was it? Hers or was it just an accident?
okay, so how it had happened was we were in lashing teams on the ship, and we were all coming off the ship
After delashing the crates.
after
Okay.
delashing the ship. And as a rule of thumb, when you're walking down the gangway, down off the stairs and then onto the dock, you can walk underneath the crane legs as long as the crane isn't moving back and forth. If the crane's over the ship and doing its thing, you're good to walk it. Or if the crane's over a container or over a semi doing its thing over here, you're usually fine. And so that's where we were at. We were all coming off the gangway, going down on the apron, which is the dock, and we were going underneath the crane legs. And I was still up on the ship. There was a group that had gone down before us of about five people.
She was in this
group.
Okay.
They were walking underneath the crane legs when this had happened, and they were safe to do so. In theory, the crane operator was messing with a container that was inside the hole inside of the ship. But on the outside, On the top part of the ship, there's still, on the starboard or other side, there's still containers that sit there. And as he was maneuvering one of these cranes down in the hull of the ship, he had bumped one of these side containers that wasn't lashed on anymore. And the dog ears that I was telling you about, they were all unlocked. So as these 5 people were walking underneath the gang legs right here, he was down fishing inside of the semi to get a container, and he bumped that one off the side. And it just kind of dominoed between the crane legs and the crane ship.
Just hit her.
And it hit her. It cut her in half.
That's sad.
It was sad. It was very hard to watch. It was like someone just took the wind out of your sails. Like it wasn't, like it didn't, man, it was weird. It was hard.
Is that the only catastrophic thing you personally saw with your own eyes?
Those were the only 2 things that I saw. My buddy Kai getting his thumb cut off, and that poor girl that got killed. But I've got another buddy, and this happened after I left. There's another job down there that you're moving containers, and it's a crane basically on wheels. It's hard to describe, but the machine's called a strad. And what it does is it straddles the containers. It can lift them up about 2 or 3 containers high. And what it does is it drives down the rail line, on train tracks. And it can go all the way down the line. It can set down one container, and it can stack them that way. Then it can drive all the way back. You see what I'm saying? It straddles the container.
Right.
And these things are huge. They're as big as this building that we're in.
The machine.
The machine.
Straddler.
The strad. Yeah.
Right.
And you drive it sideways. You sit in it. You don't drive forward. You sit in it.
Yeah, you Googled a picture of this and showed it to me once.
Yep.
Yeah. So I would tell anyone who's listening to this, it would be worth Googling it. It's pretty interesting to see this thing in a photo. Like, it's not anything like you would.
You don't see them.
You can't envision. Yeah,
right.
You can't envision it.
It's different. Same with the top picks and stuff. They're big machinery, they're big vehicles and whatnot. But my buddy Rob, he one of those tipped over on the cab side, and
the strad machine.
The strad, and he was very lucky. He was in a coma for several months, and
it just fell off the rail. You mean?
He was driving it, and because they're top heavy, it's a big tall. It's like a building driving around, and he took a corner too quick and.
And it just tipped.
And it just tipped. Yep, tipped over. And he's not the same guy that he used to be. It didn't kill him, but he's not the same.
If a building fell on me, I probably wouldn't be.
Right. And that's why I say, people don't get hurt down there. They usually die or they get maimed.
Have you ever been hurt?
I wasn't hurt on nope.
So you are safety first.
Yep. There's guys that have fallen off the ship.
Into the water?
Into the water, yeah. And it's
do you throw them a life jacket, or what the fuck do you do?
Nope. You've got an hour to swim back to the apron, jump up, go to your car, change your clothes.
It takes an hour?
Dude. Okay.
I'm saying, like, what if you can't, like, do you have life jackets on?
Not when you're working, no.
So because most people can't swim for an hour. There's no way in hell you're telling me you could go swim for an hour.
Okay, well, not an hour, but however, picture a container ship. It's probably 2 football fields long.
I don't know.
Okay,
never seen one.
Container ships are huge.
I bet you couldn't swim the length of one Olympic pool.
Man, I could swim that. I never fell off a ship and had to, but dude, I'm a good swimmer. I love swimming.
You're not a good swimmer.
I am a good swimmer.
So that must be the funny shit that you see, right?
That was one of the type of jokes, because people be like hanging off the side of a ship trying to get a lashing bar in it, and they're like, "What the fuck do I do if I fall?" It's like, well, then you swim your ass back and you get back on the ship.
How often does that happen?
I never saw it, but it happens. It most definitely did happen.
Nice. Well, let me ask you this then. Again, I don't know why I love this. This is pretty interesting, probably because it's just something I've never thought about.
And I'm probably not doing it any justice.
Oh, you're good.
To
you're
have me
doing
explain
a lot of justice.
All right.
I mean, someone who's worked down on the port for a long, long time, like, yeah, definitely. What would you say is your most memorable day or experience in your longshore career? Like, is there one day that you could look back and go,
driving the tank
That was the day,
the
huh?
tank and the strikers and stuff.
Is that the first time you'd ever seen the military shit?
Yeah, and being that close in it, man. It's so different.
Like you get this pamphlet handed to you and it says tank driver and you're just like, what the fuck?
Oh, it just said military ship. Driver on a military ship. And yeah, so it's like, okay, what are we doing? We're driving a bunch of Hummers off a truck or off a, and that day it was a bunch of, they were called strikers. And these tanks, they weren't, okay, it's not like a tank with the treads on them. They were like, they had more wheels on them. They were wheels, but God, they looked just like a tank. I wish I had a picture. I'll get a picture and I'll have to show you. But the strikers, they're like a heavy duty looking semi truck with like 2 wheels in the front, 2 in the back, or grip in the back. And then these other things, they look like tanks, but they had wheels on them.
So do those vehicles come off in a very specific order?
They get parked in a...
Off the ship, I mean.
I never unloaded one, so I'm not sure.
I thought you drove them.
Well, I did, but I've loaded the ships. Didn't have to drive anything off of the military.
Oh, you drove the tank onto
the ship. Right.
Okay, so they go on in a certain order.
Right. They do
same thing.
Right, yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to get to is you say there's 50 drivers.
Mm-hmm.
If there's only 2 tanks, is it just random that it's your spot when it's time to drive the tank, or do you guys go fuck you?
Yep.
I dibs the tank.
Nope. It was like a full parking lot full of these fucking things, and then
So it randomly happened that the next vehicle to come off was this tank thing, and it was your turn.
No, we were going to a parking lot. Everybody going into these tanks and loading them up.
So it was all tanks.
All tanks and strikers. And
Okay.
stuff. Yeah. Yep.
So you drove multiple ones of these.
Yeah. I say one and just...
Does it drive like a car? Like, does it have a gas pedal and a steering wheel and shit? Or?
Yeah, dude, there was a big... When you climb down into it, there was a screen, a display screen on it with an American eagle holding a flag, like in between its talons, dude. And that came up on the thing. And then there was a button or something that we had. One of the military guys comes in and shows you how to turn it on and how to start it and what you need to flip and whatever. And there was, I think it was a button or a switch that it was like an airbag or something underneath it. Cause as soon as you switched it, it kind of picks itself up and then you can drive it off.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And the strikers weren't the same way. It's just like everything. Have you ever been in a military vehicle? They're always weird. They're weird. They're not just like a normal semi.
I've got to sit in an F-16 before. I don't want to rat anybody out, but I do have a really good friend that's retired military who it was landing when he was little. Some jets had just landed from some training missions, and he let Lando climb up in there.
That would have been cool as hell.
That's still something to this day. Landon talks about how cool that was.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. It leaves a impact. It leaves a
I'm
memory,
more of a fighter jet kind of guy.
Yeah, I didn't get.
Man, those things amaze me. Have you ever looked at the not to ruin your tank story because that's way cool, but have you ever Googled pictures of like what a stealth, like the size of a stealth bomber and shit?
It's crazy.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like what are they, like 9 feet wide?
Right.
And I mean, I don't know. Is it? Well,
I don't bomber know. Or the stealth fighter?
I don't know.
All
I know is like my favorite aircraft is the SR-71.
Yeah.
I mean, they're retired now, but you can go see them at museums and stuff. I don't know why I love that thing. Just the thought of like flying from New York to London in whatever 2 hours at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Is that the Concorde?
The SR-71, that big black plane? No.
Oh, okay. SR-71,
yeah,
the Blackbird.
yeah,
Okay, no,
yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool, man. Like, I don't know. Like, you got some really cool stories. Is there ever like let me just ask you one last one. When it comes to all these 20 jobs or whatever, what was your favorite job to do on the port? I keep calling it a dock. You're supposed to call it the port, right?
The dock or the port. It's a dock job.
Okay.
Yeah, dock, port, whatever.
What job just made you fucking excited when you got the duty for it?
I like doing tote. That's another job that you had down there. The tote boat was a ship that goes up to Alaska, and you're putting container ships on it, cars, anything that Alaska needs, and it's basically a car ship. But if we put
drove the boat or rode on it to unload it when it got there.
It working the boat there, lashing and delashing semi truck trailers onto or cars or boats or whatever, like people's personal whatever, onto this cargo or this car ship. Basically, this is the tote boat. It's not the same as a container ship. That was fun.
So you would go to the dock, get on a certain boat that floated over to Alaska?
No. Okay. The tote boat is a container ship in itself.
That comes from Alaska.
Okay. Yep.
So this is how Alaska gets stuff here and back and forth.
Yep.
So same job essentially, just.
Yeah. But I wasn't putting containers. It's not a container ship boat. It's basically like a car ship.
People's shit.
And it's people's shit. Yep. It's everything from people's cars they bought down here in Seattle or just whatever, and we and goods and stuff because we put semi trailers on there. And then to lash that ship was fast paced because you're seeing these semi drivers driving there like bats out of hell. They all know what they're doing though. And they park the shit really quick and then they get out of the way. So dude, you're diving and dodging semi trucks and trailers and you got to keep your head on a swivel and you're grabbing chains and you're lashing shit up. It was just fun, aggressive and quick. And then the name of the game is to get that fucking ship loaded as quick as you can so you can go home and be with your family. Working the tote boat was only like a 3-4 hour job. You'd go there at 6, usually get done by 10 o'clock at night, and you can go home because everybody's just busting their ass trying to get this ship loaded. And it came twice a week. It came on Wednesdays and Fridays. And that was the tote boat. I always looked forward to doing tote. I liked lashing. Lashing was fun, dude. Some of the neatest shit that I seen was lashing container ships just because, man, you're on a great big ship. You're doing shit that other people aren't doing. Yeah. You know what I mean? You look over the port. I could see Mount Rainier out in the distance. I'm up there with a group of guys that we're all doing the same thing, getting, greasy.
Probably cold, right?
Cold, yep. Or hungover if you were drinking. That was another thing. Drinking is a big part of living on the port. A lot of people drink on the port. And on those times off where you were saying, okay, so if you were a hustler driver and they had to lash the ship, if you knew it was going to be a long time, you didn't necessarily have to stay there at the port. No, by God, you just better be to the ship.
When it's time to go to work.
So, dude, we'd go hang out in casinos and shit. We would go get fucking drunk. And that was another thing. I don't know if I should say anything, but even driving the trucks down there, some of our trainers, they'd tell us, but best learn how to drive these trucks drunk. Because you're going to do it. Because that's the lifestyle down there. Everybody down there on the port, that's what they're doing.
Right.
It comes with the gig.
Well, I got to say, as much as you love that job, I'm really glad that you had to move back here. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about it. But,
they say everything happens for a reason. And I feel the same way.
Yeah. Well, any final thoughts? Is there anything that you didn't get to talk about? Anything? Because you love Longshoreman.
It was a neat experience in my life. I'll say that. It was a really neat experience. It had the chance to, take off into something really cool and big. I'm glad I got to see it, though. I'm glad I got to have that kind of experience. Something that, like I say, the average person doesn't do. And so that's what was neat for me.
There's probably only one topic that I would think gets you more excited than longshoring. And we're going on a road trip.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah. So
only
you guys,
one other topic, baby.
You guys are gonna love when Trevor gets into his alien.
Yeah,
phase.
if we got a camera up, you'll be able to see me. But if not, I'll still be glowing.
Yeah. Well, I hate to do it, my man, but
is it that time?
Yeah, we're out of time, and you know the drill. So let's talk about just today in this moment right now. Is your glass half empty or half full?
It's half full.
Really?
Yeah, I've always got to go with half full.
All right. Well, you heard it there. Just want to keep with the theme, and as this is kind of more of a video diary for my grandkids, my great grandkids, since I don't have an audience. Just want to give a shout out to all my kids, my wife, my friends, my son who's far away that I miss. I'm super proud of you, Lando. Keep working hard, keep grinding. Hayden, phenomenal. I have kids that are close. They know that they're loved. I have friends. I want to send out some prayers to a good friend of mine whose mom just had a stroke. I don't know. What about you? Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
I want to shout out to my brothers. I love you guys. I hope you're all well. Jace, be safe out there on the truck. Josh, you keep doing your thing. Keep your head down, plugging away. And Tanner, you know I love you, brother. And to all my partners out there, just keep it up.
All right. See you guys next week.
Later.